call to order the meeting of the Ames Zoning Board of Adjustment for Wednesday, June 2nd, 2024. The first item on our agenda is the election of officers. I think this, however the year runs. We didn't have any meetings in April, so we're just now getting to it in June. I am currently our chair, and Leah Patton is vice chair. Do I have a motion from the committee regarding any nominations for chair or vice chair?
Motion to nominate Chad Schneider as chair.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Whitehouse, second by Patton. Do we need to do a roll call vote? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Okay, motion carries. Any nominations for vice chair? Any volunteers? Just hope that I don't show up. If I don't show up, then you have to. If I can't be here.
But
Don't
you're
show
here
up.
all the time, right?
He was last
Mostly, let's see.
I thought you were chair last year because you were here all the time and Leo wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, spring break would have been the only time. And we don't have a meeting end of July, do we? No. 1st of August.
Maybe.
All right. That one's off the. There's one then, I'm off then. All right.
What?
Anybody get that? We have a default nomination.
I will keep doing it.
Oh, you already are? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
go
Leah is.
for it, yeah.
All right, I'll nominate Leah Patton to be vice chair. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Nomination by Schneider, second by Cruz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Leah Patton shall be the vice chair for this coming year. Next item on the agenda is approval of meeting of the minutes from March 20th, 2024. So it's been a while. Obviously, you two weren't there, so it's difficult for
Do
you
we
to.
vote? I read them, but do we vote since we weren't here?
It's your
You
call.
can.
In theory, you could watch the video and read the minutes, and if you feel comfortable, you may vote.
All right.
Or 3 votes enough for it to pass.
Do we have a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting, zoning board of adjustment meeting from March 20th, 2024?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Motion by Whitehouse. I'll second it. Second by Schneider. All those in favor? Oh, any discussion regarding those? Any changes? Anything? I didn't see anything in there. Okay. All those in favor of accepting the minutes of the meeting from March 20th, 2024, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The minutes are approved. Back up just a second. I forgot to read my opening statement. We will do it for mere formality, if anything. The Zoning Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board created by the City of Ames. The board's purpose is to decide on applications for special use permits, exceptions, and variances to the zoning ordinance, applications for conditional use permits in the floodplain, requests for reasonable accommodation because of a disability, and appeals of decisions of the zoning enforcement officer. As a board of the city, we welcome all testimony. We make our decisions based on the facts and evidence as allowed under city code and presented in open meeting. Testimony before the board must be given under oath or affirmation. If the proceedings become lengthy, we may ask that testimony be focused on new facts or evidence not already presented. We ask that you come to the microphone right up here at the podium if you wish to speak so that your testimony will be audible and may be recorded. Before speaking, we ask that you complete an orange information card. I think they're also on the podium, and hand it to the recording secretary, Natalie, right up here. When you are testifying, please address your remarks to the board. We also ask that the proceedings be orderly. Don't get out of hand. All right. I don't think so. The Board of Adjustment is an independent volunteer board of citizens. We are not part of the city administration. We are served in our efforts this evening by Vicki Fielmeyer, the assistant county attorney, city attorney. I'm so used to saying county, sorry.
It's okay.
Eloise Sahlstrom, who is city staff, and Natalie Rickmeyer, who've already started, is the recording secretary. The order of the proceedings for all for each application will be as follows. First, an oral statement summarizing the issues and procedural steps will be presented by the staff. Second, testimony and evidence will be presented by the applicant if they choose to do so. Third, testimony may be heard from any members of the audience who wish to speak in support or in opposition to the appeal. Then the board will give the applicant and the city staff an opportunity to present any concluding summaries or remarks or arguments. And finally, the board will discuss the issue and evidence and come to a decision. We've already covered the first two items on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for a special use permit for a rock climbing facility at 525 East 2nd Street in Ames. Eloise.
All right. Good evening. On the screen is the location of this property. The applicants are looking to lease one of the warehouse buildings at this site. It's a little hard to see the buildings, but there's actually 46,635 square feet of storage and warehouse space on this site. And we kind of consider it as 7 different buildings, although they're all connected. They are looking to locate in the building that is at this end, at the southeast end of the property, and access from East 2nd here coming in to the site. It's an interesting area, and apparently there's aliens.
Alien sighting.
I found this picture on Street View. So,
Wow.
yeah, that's some of the indoor storage buildings behind there. The site is identified in the Ames Plan 2040 as general commercial, with the intent that eventually the city would establish a new zoning district that would support that goal of being kind of a hybrid between commercial uses and between the general industrial uses. And you could kind of see even in this image that the general, well, I'll show it on the next image. The zoning of the site is general industrial. And recently there was a zoning text amendment to allow a rock climbing facility as a special use in general industrial. In what I was going to say is you can see the general industrial zone. This is the western edge of it. And most of our general industrial is to the east of the river. So you could see where this could be a transition into that general commercial area that the Ames Plan talks about. And in fact, this site kind of is evidence of that transition and the fact that it was developed all as warehouses and then over time now is converted to primarily indoor storage uses, which is also a use allowed in HOC. So it's just kind of an interesting situation, but it's a great site for the applicant because one thing that they provided information to us on is that many of the commercial sites, they would be allowed to be in a commercial site such as HOC, but most of those buildings would not support a rock climbing facility. The walls are not high enough. It's just not enough open area to support that kind of use. And so typically all around the country and even internationally, rock climbing facilities have located in manufacturing and warehouse districts. So that's part of the reason that it fits from their perspective into this area. But of course, you have to look at our purpose for general industrial and also how well it blends with the adjacent uses to see if it fits, if it meets the special use requirements. So the applicant, so on this site, see if I can zoom in a little bit. The area to the east of this building is currently all gravel, and there's a gravel drive. As a matter of fact, that gravel drive extends up into this area and connects back. And then this is pavement and parking that currently exists on the site to support all these other uses, and there's a small parking area here. So the applicant is proposing to pave this area and to include 17 parking spaces. 17 parking spaces are required for the use of this part of the building based on the square footage of the building, which is almost 8,200 square feet. Additionally, they need to have one accessible space. So in looking at all of that, they were looking at possibly having their accessible route with an accessible space over on here, to the west, and adding a new entrance door that would be handicap accessible. In just talking with them today, they've gotten bids. It looks like they might be leaning more toward not creating the sidewalk and accessible entrance here, but adding a ramp and then identifying one of these spaces as handicap accessible. And we believe if they wish to proceed in that direction, they could do that with just an amendment that staff could approve. But I did want to let you know that they may want to pursue that. And we don't care which option they go with. As a matter of fact, there's a table in your agenda item that shows how much parking is available on the site and how much they are required to provide. And as I mentioned, they need 17. So in this particular example, they would have the 17 here, but then additionally, they would have 6 additional ones. This could go away and they still would meet the parking requirements. So it doesn't affect their approval from that standpoint. They've identified their operations and gone into a lot of depth about that. I know you have it with their application, and then some of it has been reiterated in the report, describing the different types of climbing and how they anticipate having their membership or day passes available, what kind of hours they would have and so forth. So I'm not going to delve into that too much. It's there. It's provided for you. The bottom line is that it appears that the busiest times that their peak hours of operation would not coincide with the peak hours of operation for the businesses surrounding this use. And so there would be a very minimal impact on any surrounding businesses, primarily just because of the operational hours. I'm not going to go over each of the findings of fact and conclusions that are included in the addendum. I'm happy to address any questions that you have on that. Each of the standards staff did conclude have been met with the proposal. And we do feel that the idea of the rock climbing wall is really an option that would not broadly change the allowable uses within general industrial and will not hamper other industrial businesses in the area. And furthermore, the use is on the interior of the building. So if at such time there was a desire to return that building to a warehouse or industrial use, it would not be hampered from doing so. So there's some flexibility for the future for the property owner as well. So we, as staff, we believe by allowing non-industrial uses within the zone, the available land set aside for this important economic function is reduced. However, this area of general industrial zoning is at the edge of the general industrial district, and the Ames Plan 2040 does contemplate it as transitioning to a general commercial land use in the future. Industrial buildings are well suited to host a rock climbing facility due to the large open areas within their floor plans and high ceiling height. And these types of buildings are uncommon within the city's commercial zone. While special equipment is needed to be installed, it will not require physical alterations to the structure. These changes will not prevent the building from later returning to an industrial function. The applicant's goals can be accomplished with no negative impact to the property at 525 East 2nd Street. It appears that the use will not have significant effect on adjacent industrial operations due to the proposed business location, size, and schedule of operation. And therefore, staff does recommend approval of alternative 1 based on the findings and conclusions of staff. And alternative 1 is to approve the special use permit to allow an 8,200 square foot area for rock climbing facility used at 525 East 2nd Street based on the findings and conclusions of staff. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Eloise, do you know if the space is even being currently used?
I believe it's vacant.
Any other questions for staff at this time? If the applicant would like to address the board, you can do so at this time. You state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Brian Dosher. Currently, I'm living at 2815 49th Street in Des Moines.
Okay, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead. And you
Great.
can share what you want to.
Well, hello all. Like I said, my name is Brian Dosher. I'm one of the applicants. My business partner, Keith, is watching right now from DC. And I would really like to just give you guys an overview of how we got to this position. So I first learned to rock climb while attending Iowa State University. I spent most of my time at the climbing wall there, as well as the Walnut Creek Climbing Gym, which unfortunately burned down several years ago, which was a major hit to the Ames climbing community. After graduating, my spouse and I moved to upstate New York, where I got my first job in the industry. And that's also where I met my business partner, Keith, at the climbing wall. Keith decided to open his own climbing gym in upstate New York with the idea that I could be general manager. Unfortunately, my spouse and I, the timing wasn't great. We wanted to move back to Iowa and be closer to family. After spending some time in Iowa, I recognized the need for this type of space in the Ames community. Climbing gyms are places where people form friendships, partnerships, and other connections that few other experiences offer. So I called Keith and the process began, and here we are now. And I just really want to say thank you to Eloise and all the other staff members for being patient and giving us guidance through this process. So I'm here to answer any questions if you have any for me.
Any members of the board have questions for the applicant?
I do.
Go ahead.
So I know this is just a bouldering gym, right?
Correct.
Do you have any plans to expand, maybe make a belaying or rope?
Not at this facility. Hopefully the business is successful, but it's not tall enough for, we would have to raise the roof significantly for that. It's something in the future we would love to do, but it would have to be in a different facility altogether.
Anyone else have questions? Okay, thank you very
Great,
much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any additional questions for staff at this time? Okay. Any discussion about the special use permit? Okay. Do I have a motion on this special use permit?
I'll make a motion to adopt alternative 1.
Okay. Motion by Whitehouse, alternative 1. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by McDaniel. Any discussion about it at all? I think the only question I had was about parking space and probably traffic, and that's fine just because it's in an industrial area. I think those have been answered. All right, let's do a roll call vote then. Aye.
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 Okay, the motion passed. Anyone wishing to challenge the ruling of the board may do so by filing a writ of certiorari at the district court within 30 days of the entry of the filing of the order or the findings. All right, let's move on to our fourth item on the agenda. It's a public hearing on a request for a special use permit for social services or social service provider at 214 South Sherman Avenue. Eloise.
So Shelter Housing Holdings, also known as the Bridge Home, is a social service provider and seeks to redevelop property located at 214 South Sherman into a new 34,580 square foot 2 and 3 story building that would include offices, homeless shelter rooms, and a community space. The site is located at 214 South Sherman, which is illustrated on the map on the screen. So what you will notice with this location is that the zoning changes at Sherman. To the east, on the east side of Sherman is highway-oriented commercial zoning with the South Lincoln Fringe Overlay, which that fringe overlay basically just requires any property that locates in that area to face Sherman. Across the street on the east side, on the west side of South Sherman, it's part of the South Lincoln Mixed Use District. It's a special district. And there's a lot of rentals in that area, some single family homes, lots of apartments. Also Shelter Housing Corporation, a different branch, owns this property on the corner, which is currently under development. So it's a different project. It is to house low-income individuals, and so it's not a homeless shelter that's there. To the south of this property is the YSS building, and over here to the northwest is Story County facilities. So there's a real mix of uses in the area already. The site was identified in Ames Plan 2040 as part of a redirection area. So you can see the extent of the redirection area is quite large, but just in anticipation that this area is kind of in a situation of transition, and that is supported by the city. The highway-oriented commercial uses allows social service providers as a special use permit, and that's why they're here tonight. This image, which is a little difficult to see, but it was developed basically to help determine the parking arrangement. Within the zoning code, each use has to be evaluated based on a the parking ratio in the code. And because the site includes 3 uses, office, homeless shelter, and community space, those areas were analyzed, and the rate for parking for each of those areas was analyzed. And I'll come back to that in a minute. Just make sure I'm not missing anything here. So in the office space will include 17,256 square feet approximately for admission, administration, staff offices, shelter staff offices, partner meeting rooms, conference rooms, staff break rooms, etc. There will also be a partner office suite that's been incorporated. The shelter component will include 15,620 square feet approximately, and will include 40 individual shelter rooms. That means 1 bed in a room. And it will also include 5 family shelter suites, which will be located on the 1st floor. So the independent shelter rooms are located on the 2nd and 3rd floor on the south portion of the building, whereas the family suites are totally located in a different part of the building on the 1st floor and to the northeast. Typically, the length of stay will range from 30 to 90 days for these individuals, but they will be required to leave every day and not just be at the facility all day long. So the idea is that they should be working or looking for work. So they will leave by 8 o'clock, and typically they will arrive after 5 p.m. But when they arrive depends on if they're working in the evening and so forth. Because the shelter use comes and goes at a different time from the office and community uses, they're able to have some joint use parking spaces assigned. And so typically 18 spaces would be required for the shelter area. We're not expecting lots of cars from those clients. It is accessible from there's a bus stop within walking distance. They will be providing bicycle parking. So there's a number of ways people can access the facility, also by car. But because of that, the parking has been reduced. The parking, if you take the count of each use, it would require 85 spaces. Additionally, the zoning code allows for reduction of spaces when bicycle parking is provided, and also if you have enhanced landscaping. So 13 spaces are allowed to be reduced from the 85 to take it down to 72 spaces. And then with the 18 joint use spaces, it results in 54 parking spaces being provided on site. The joint use parking plan went to the city council for approval. And as part of that approval, they did a complete parking analysis of the uses and of the demand. And staff believes, based on the analysis, that they do have enough parking to support the uses they are proposing. The joint use parking plan does have an allowance in there that if there should be a change of use, or if there would be significant impact to on-street parking in the area, or anything such as that, the city council could revisit the approval of the joint use parking. Let me pull up the copy of this plan. So you'll see in this plan here. Whoop. It'll stay put right there. There is significant space along here where parking could be added. It's part of their enhanced landscaping right now, so it's proposed to be totally vegetated, which is a nice buffer to South Second. But if it was determined that more parking was needed on site, it could be developed. That it would restrict some of the depth of landscaping because there's a little bit of a angle in here. So some of the required front yard landscaping might be less than what the code would typically require. But if it was a determination that it was necessary, then that would override that provision of the code. The elevation, they will be screening their rooftop equipment. And you can see from this bottom image, which this is facing South Sherman. This would be the elevation facing South Sherman. The 3-story building is here to the south, and the 2-story building is to the north. There is an elevation change where the property is higher at this corner and drops down toward South Second. Let's see. So we believe that the design of the building does fit within the general area, both with the buildings across the street and also the highway-oriented commercial. It makes for a good transition between with the architecture and the location of the buildings on the site. So they are proposing 31 bicycle parking spaces that would be in the front of the building. This actually is this is an enlargement of the area where the bicycle parking would be. Hard to see that, isn't it? Doesn't seem as clear as I thought it would be. So there again, I'm not going to go through all the findings of fact and conclusions for each of the criteria. It is in your report. If you have any questions on any of those, we do believe they meet all of those requirements. The site is 1.2 acres. There's a couple of conditions we've included on the approval. One is that we have not yet received the DNR general permit number 2. That's required because the site is over 1 acre and it's being impacted. So they have to provide that before any actual construction activity would commence, even something including grading. And then also they did provide lighting information for the parking lot area, but there's some area to the front of the building, the west side of the building, that has not been provided. And so we have said that final approval of the lighting plan can be by staff. So we do ask for approval of the 3 uses: the nonprofit organizational offices, the homeless shelter, and community facility. And given the complementary social services already present in the area with youth and shelter services and Story County Human Services, staff believes that the use can be found to met the standards for compatibility with the surroundings and the city as a whole, and that it will have no material impact on commercial land availability and development opportunities. So we believe we do support approval of the special use permit for this property. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here.
Thank you, Eloise. Any questions right now for Eloise? Correct me if I'm wrong, too. There was a few buildings on that site, but there's not much there. It's pretty much vacant.
Yeah, all the existing homes that were there, they were in very poor condition, and they've all been demolished, and any trees were removed as well.
All right, thank you. If the applicant's here and would like to address the board, they may do so. Good evening. Please share your name and address with the board.
I'm Mindy Bringleson with CGA at on South Bell Avenue here in Ames.
Mindy, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you may proceed.
The Bridge Home has been working towards this project for several years now with lots of fundraising efforts and community outreach and involvement. They have worked very diligently with staff who has been wonderful in helping us overcome some of the hurdles of getting the square footage that we need to accommodate the community needs, the spaces for community needs, as well as the landscaping and parking requirements. And we're just here to answer any questions that you might have. As mentioned, there were 3 homes on the site that have been removed. Those parcels have been combined into one. And we're just really ready to get started and hoping to get this up and running for the community. And as well as myself being here as a civil for the site, the architect and the owner both are here as well. So if you have any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Probably doesn't need any last questions for Eloise. Any motion regarding the approval of the special use permit for the social service provider?
Move approval of alternative 1.
Okay. Motion to approve alternative 1 with, I believe, the 2 exceptions. One is the DNR general permit. Number 2 has to be received. And then also the final lighting plan is going to be approved by the staff. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Patton. All right. Roll call vote. Oh, any discussion? I just make a comment quick. I appreciate the work that the Bridge Home does. As you may know, in my other life, I have clients that take advantage of those services. All right. Anything else? Okay. Roll call vote then, Ellie. Aye.
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 Okay. Alternative 1, the motion passes. The special use permit is then approved. Anyone wishing to challenge the approval of the special permit may do so by filing writ of certiorari within 30 days after the permit is filed. As there are no other items on the agenda, I will take a motion for adjournment.
I motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion by McDaniel, second by
Me, White House.
Whitehouse. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes. We are adjourned.